Good day, and welcome to another episode of Living Well with Adena. My name is Dr. Kataka, and I'll serve as your host again today. You know, taking care of ourselves is really important. It's helpful for our mental health, our emotional health, spiritual, and other well-being. You know, taking time out for ourselves, whether that's exercise or meditating or, well, maybe just doing 5 minutes of nothing, is really critical for all of us. Yet many of us struggle to do that. In the pandemic has only made that worse. All of us are feeling stress. You know, that may be related to work or perhaps not having a job. It may be taking care of those kids at home now that weren't there. Perhaps you're taking care of a family member. Perhaps you've lost a family member during this COVID time. Today, our guest will join us today and help us to understand why it's so important for us to take care of ourselves. And more importantly, what are some things that you can do as well? One of those things that we can do to take care of ourselves is actually to get a vaccine when it's available to you. So today joining me is Fred Yingling, who's the Director of Pharmacy, and he's been helping to lead our initiative here at Adena in the region in getting vaccines out to the thousands of folks in our area that desire them and qualify for them. Fred, I'm going to turn the time over to you for an update.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kataka. As Dr. Kataka said, we continue to vaccinate here on behalf of the Adena Health System from the PACCAR Medical Education Center here on our Chillicothe campus. We are closing up our program, getting ready to wind it down for our employees, which we've vaccinated well over 2,000 of our health system employees. But we continue with our public offering. Currently, the health system as a whole, we've vaccinated over 10,000 citizens. And currently, we've given all three of the products so far. Currently, the product that we are receiving from the state is the Moderna vaccine. So we continue on with that. Some really nice developments have happened around the state here this week that I wanted to mention, which will really open it up to pretty much every Ohioan will be eligible to get a vaccine by the end of the month. So starting tomorrow, March 19th, anyone that is 40 years and over is now eligible to get the vaccine, as well as certain individuals with certain medical conditions, such as chronic kidney disease, COPD, heart disease, and obesity. So that's really a great development. But even better than that, the week of March 29th, so the last week of the month, every Ohioan 16 and up will be eligible to get a vaccine. Now, it's important to know that only the Pfizer vaccine is approved for those individuals who are 16 or 17. But we're really happy. We've really been asking for that to allow those people that are really ready to get the vaccine to get on the list and receive their vaccine. So that's a great development for the state. Here in the county, we have vaccinated approximately 20% of the population in the county, and that is very consistent to what is happening across the state. So, you can call the number on the website, the 542 SAFE, or go to our website to get online. We actually have openings tomorrow. We still have a couple 100 or 200 spots if you would like to come in tomorrow and make it schedule today and come in tomorrow. The last thing I wanted to say is that we're real excited here at our Chillicothe campus. We were selected to be one of 16 mass vaccination sites for the state of Ohio. So we're expecting somewhere around the 31st or the beginning of April 1st to be receiving considerably more vaccines, and those most likely will be the Johnson & Johnson one-shot vaccine. So a lot of great news here in the last several days. Just encourage everyone, don't wait. If you get contacted by any provider, the best vaccine is the vaccine that you can get in your arm as soon as possible. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Dr. Kataka.
Thank you so much, Fred. Thanks for that great update. Thank you for you and your team to deliver all these vaccinations. It's exciting to hear that 20% of our population have received that. And we already have spots as well for tomorrow. And I'm excited that the state of Ohio is opening up the vaccines to everyone in 16 and above, as Fred indicated. Just as a reminder here, we'll put up on the screen here for you, and I'll review. You can call 740-542-SAFE or 740-542-7233. And you can also then go to our website, which is adena.org/COVID vaccine. So again, that's www.adena.org/COVID vaccine. Be sure to get your vaccine. That's one of the ways you can talk about self-care. But again, we're here to talk about self-care. So let me introduce now our guest today. Today we have with us Dr. Brittany Weeks, who's a psychologist with the Adena Counseling Center. Welcome, Dr. Weeks. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Dr. Kataka. Thank you.
Yeah, we're glad that you're here. And then also joining Dr. Weeks is Cody Mash, who's a nurse practitioner with Adena Urgent Cares. Hi, Cody.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We look forward to talking to both of you. As always, if you have questions or you want to have comments, as always, fill them in the spot below. We do have staff that's ready on hand to get us those questions, and I'll be happy to get them to our providers here. So Dr. Weeks, let's start off with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm from Lucasville, Ohio, which is about 30 minutes south of here. I completed my undergraduate degree at Shawnee State University, and I went to Marshall University for my PsyD. Where I was trained specifically to treat and work with rural populations in clinical psychology.
That's awesome. What kind of interested you in the rural population? Was it growing up in Lucasville?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the area, and I saw and experienced firsthand the struggles, the unique struggles and experiences that people go through in the rural populations, lower socioeconomic statuses, lower education, and that kind of thing. And so, being underserved in general. And so really piqued my interest in bringing much needed services to this area.
Do you think, Dr. Weeks, that, having grown up in Southern Ohio and being part of the Appalachian culture, does that give you better insight into your patients and in the communities that you see?
I would hope so. I think not only living here, but the amazing training that I received at Marshall, because we had specific classes to talk about those things. And we talked openly and explored those things openly and working with those families and the unique dynamics that occur and generational types of diseases and disorders.
Okay. Do you find, Dr. Weeks, that some of the patients you work with struggle with the topic of self-care and taking care of themselves?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is something that everybody seems to struggle with, is self-care, and especially in the healthcare profession, but everybody does. It's a you before me culture where we prioritize taking care of others, and taking care of ourselves tends to fall to last.
Yeah, real briefly, Dr. Weeks, for the folks that are listening in, can you kind of tell us a little bit about what are some of the negative effects that can have on us if we don't really take care of ourselves?
So you definitely see the depression, the anxiety, high stress levels. As I'm sure you're aware of, there are high health consequences. And so, as well as compassion fatigue, fatigue in our jobs, high burnout rates. And these are things that we don't realize have such a big impact on us, on our overall health, not just our mental health.
Dr. Weeks, with the pandemic, what would you say? How's the pandemic? Has that made it worse on some of these areas? What's the impact of that?
I believe it has made it worse on some areas because people are working to take care of each other. Um, Nurses, some healthcare professionals are working even longer hours. And then you have kids home, so there's even less time to yourself. Some people are stuck in the house, and therefore, some of the self care activities that we would usually be engaged in um, are not available, such as attending yoga, which we may talk about later,
Yes,
or
indeed.
some type of social event, going to museums, and some of those more just social activities that usually would give us an outlet. We're not able to engage in those.
That is hard, right? Well, I think, even in my own life and in folks that I know, that lack of social contact has
Mhm.
really been a struggle, right? Even for students some who may not be back in an in-person learning environment. So, given that context, Dr. Weeks, knowing that we have this social isolation, that there are these increased stressors, that we're taking care of more people and we're not taking care of ourselves, can you help us define what are some self-help things that are possible to do and that we should consider?
Yeah, I mean, it becomes a little difficult because it's whatever you find rejuvenating and restoring to your own energy and own health. But some ideas that are generally work for most people are things like mindfulness. Um,
So tell me a little bit more about that. When you say mindfulness, what is? Help me understand better what that kind of means.
Yeah, so mindfulness is not a new concept, but it is something that's picking up a lot of speed in a lot of different areas outside of the mental health world recently. So, mindfulness is the concept of paying attention to the present moment and being connected to our present moment rather than being in the past or in the future. And particularly using our five senses to be connected to the present moment. So, really taking
Hmm.
in the sights, the smells, the taste, the feelings of right now.
Hmm. So does that mean actually just when you're like even like sitting here now, just being aware of what's the surroundings? What
Yeah,
does that kind of do for the body or for the mind?
it provides a sense of calming and an awareness, is what it does. It opens us up for more self awareness and self compassion, which is something that we're usually focused on giving to others, not
Ah,
ourselves.
gotcha. Now, I know some folks, when they talk about, hey, I should take care of myself, they experience some sense of guilt,
Mhm.
right? Like, I don't know, that seems selfish to me. What would you say to those viewers out there that might have some of those things feeling like, I don't know that I want to do that. I've got to take care of someone else.
There are a couple of analogies that I like to use for that because I hear that often in the room with clients. And I would say my favorite analogy and the best one is that when you're on an airplane and if you're going down in a crash and the oxygen mask fall down, what is the first thing that you're supposed to do? You
Yeah,
put the mask on
that's right.
yourself
That's right.
and then others, because without doing that, you can't help anybody else. And that's that old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
I like that analogy, right? Take care of yourself first so you can take care of others. It's a
Absolutely.
great visual
Hmm.
reminder. What are some of the things that get in the way for folks to do self-care that
Well,
you've seen?
again, it's that our own mind and our own guilt of taking care of ourselves, I think, is the biggest one for sure. Is we live in a culture that rewards and expects us to take care of others, and we enjoy that. That feels good when we are able to take care and provide for others. it's rewarding to us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I think that's probably the biggest barrier. And then time constraints for sure. If you're working 40 plus hours a week, plus caring for children, trying to find time for your own hobbies or just relaxation, I think it just gets lower and lower on the priority list.
And is self-care different for individuals?
Absolutely. I think it's different for everybody. What you may find rejuvenating and relaxing may not be rejuvenating and relaxing to me. You think about the difference between an extrovert and an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
That social connection may be very rejuvenating to somebody, whereas others may find that very draining, and that's not going to be a self-care activity for them.
Mm-hmm. You bring up a very, very good point. Last question before we move on to Cody. What would be some words of encouragement that you would give to your patients or to our audience about taking time out for themselves?
So finding what works for you and what is rejuvenating to you, and that you're able to be more compassionate towards others when you're compassionate towards yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Weeks. We appreciate you taking your time today and joining us and kind of reminding our viewers about self-help and that it's okay to take care of yourselves and overcome some of that guilt that they might feel and that it'll help them. I love the analogy as well, right? That put the mask on yourself first and then apply the oxygen to those that are around you. Or say it one more time, pouring from an
empty cup. You cannot pour from an
empty cup. I
Absolutely.
like that. Thank you so much, Dr. Weeks, for your time with that. Cody, I'm going to turn my attention to you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how what you do in the urgent care and your role?
Yeah, so I've been with Adena for almost 11 years now, and I spent most of my time over inpatient, but for the last a little over a year, I've been a nurse practitioner in the urgent care. So that's been really interesting working through the pandemic over there. And then, in my spare time, I enjoy being outside, hiking, spending time with my dogs. And I've been practicing yoga for the last 6 years. And then I started teaching yoga last year.
Oh, that's awesome. So would you say yoga is part of your self-care that Dr. Weeks was talking about?
Absolutely. I just don't know that I could function without it at this point, to be honest with you. But yes, definitely part of my self-care.
So what interests you about becoming a yoga instructor? Tell us a little about your journey there.
So I started practicing yoga myself about 6 years ago, and I really went into it for the physical benefits. I wanted to be stronger. I wanted to be more flexible, all that kind of stuff. And that's why I started. But then as I started doing yoga, I started to realize the other benefits I was getting from that. The mental benefits. I was feeling less stressed. I was feeling less anxious. I was more present in my everyday life. I was forming better relationships with those around me. And that's kind of what hooked me and what made me continue with it. And as I started realizing that, that's when I realized I wanted to be able to share that with other people. And so that's why I went through the training to be an instructor.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that journey. So I'd love to learn a little bit more. How does yoga itself correlate with self-care?
So, it can be, as we talked about just a few minutes ago, we get caught up in our day-to-day lives. And, we get up in the morning, we get ready, and we get going. And we're so busy running to work, taking care of kids, or doing something for our spouses or our parents. And we kind of forget about ourselves. We're with ourselves all day, but we're not really spending time with ourselves. So I think it's really important to take some time to do that. And yoga can bring that physically and mentally. And that's kind of how that correlates with that.
Okay. Now I've heard in yoga that there are some breathing exercises that your class or people who practice it can do. Would you mind demonstrating with me and our viewers some of those breathing exercises?
Absolutely. So I'm going to take you through just a little guided meditation.
Okay.
And it can feel kind of weird at first if this is something you've never done, but don't worry, everybody can do this. I'm just going to talk you through it and just try to stay present and really listen to what I'm telling you.
Okay. So Cody's going to take us through some exercises here. And if you feel comfortable at home, go ahead and join us here and we'll see how this turns out. All right,
Absolutely.
Cody, I'm ready.
So go ahead and just sit up tall with
Okay.
a nice long spine.
All right.
And start to just relax your hands into your lap.
okay.
Try not to hold any tension there.
All right. I'm going to put my pen down. Is that all right?
Yeah,
Should
absolutely.
I do that? Okay. All right. Here we go.
And then just start to close your eyes.
Okay.
Just start to bring some awareness to your body and your posture. Notice how you're feeling. Starting with the toes, curl your toes up in a tight ball and then just release the tension in your feet. Release any tension you may be holding in the legs or the hips. Relax your shoulders down away from your ears. Relax your forehead. Relax your eyes. Unhinging the jaw, pull the tongue off the roof of your mouth. Bring some awareness to your breath, breathing in through your nose. Feel your belly fill with air as your chest expands. Breathing out through the nose, feeling the chest drop as your belly pulls in towards your spine, pressing all the air out of your lungs. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Again, breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your nose. One more breath in, one more breath out. When you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Cody. You know what was interesting about that exercise? You said during part of that, and so I've not done this before. So for the audience, I've not participated in one of these. I've not taken a yoga class. But what I found very interesting was you said, let my tongue fall from the roof of my mouth. I didn't even know that my tongue was on the roof of my mouth until you said it, right? And I had no idea. What I also think is interesting about this is, how long do you think that took, Cody? I didn't really time it, but that was just a minute maybe.
Maybe a minute.
Or so, right? So this is something that the average person can do even when they're busy. Other than closing your eyes, is that something you could even do while you're driving, perhaps?
Absolutely. There are many different guided meditations you can do that you can get on your phone that are apps. If you feel that you need to be guided through that, as I just guided you, sometimes it's hard for people when they first start to just jump in and be like, okay, I'm going to relax my shoulders. And, it can be hard to do that. So you can do guided meditations and just take a couple minutes, or, even just being mindful to sit still and close your eyes for a couple minutes and just focus on the breath like we did is a good way to bring you present and more self-aware.
So Cody, I think I felt better, and it felt more relaxed. What are some of the benefits from doing something as simple as what we just did for a minute?
Well, it definitely calms down the nervous system. It can release anxiety, just making you more self-aware and really more confident and happy.
Awesome. So we've talked with Dr. Weeks before, right? When she was on briefly before, about some people they're working a lot, they're taking care of kids and parents, they're doing things that just take up more and more of their time. What are some easy ways you can incorporate this into your daily life?
Well, I think it's important to every day try to do something that you enjoy. And it doesn't necessarily have to be yoga or meditation, but we are so busy throughout the day serving others that we forget to take care of ourselves, like we said. And so, if it just means taking 5 minutes to drink your cup of coffee on the porch in silence, that's meditation. You're staying present and you're drinking your coffee and you're noticing the hot coffee, and that's meditation. So it doesn't have to be a cliche thing. You can take a few moments to write in a journal, or read a couple pages of a book, a hot bubble bath, take a walk outside. And any of those things are self-care, and that can definitely give you those benefits.
So again, it's unique to the individual, what they enjoy, and it can be very short.
Yeah.
So Cody, thanks so much for taking that. I'm sure the viewers will take some of that and practice that. It'll be a wonderful exercise for you to do. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
I'm going to also introduce our last guest here with us. I'm pleased to introduce to you Dr. John Gabus. Dr. John Gabus has been with the Adena Health System and actually in the community for many years. I'm going to allow him a chance to introduce himself, but he has an exciting new role. So Dr. Gabus, welcome. We're glad that you're joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself for the viewers that might not know who you are and your role here at Adena.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kataka. I've actually been, I'm in my 31st year in our community. And
that's fantastic.
That's my entire professional career. And when you come into a community and you're part of the thread of the community, it makes you care so much about the health and the well-being, not just of the patients that I see, but of the entire community. And I've moved from an administrative role within Adena Medical Group. I'm now the Medical Director of Community Partnerships. And you might ask, well, what the heck does that mean?
I was going to, yeah, so tell us.
So what that means is I'm able to bring the resources of Adena to help improve community health. Not Adena alone, but we have to partner. One of our strategic initiatives is partnerships. We have to work with our communities to help them realize that they need to be healthier and to give them the permission, like we were giving ourselves permission to relax, giving them permission to work on their own health, so that by maximizing all the resources we have in our region, we can improve the health of all of our citizens. And Adena wants to play a major role in that. So I'm very, very excited. I've been involved in community health as Ross County Coroner for 26 years. I retired 2 years ago from that role. But seeing how on heavy snow weekends, we had 3 gentlemen pass away from heart attacks shoveling snow. Being able to say, here's how you do that properly, carefully. Also, substance use disorder and opioid use disorder. I've spent a lot of time, a decade, fighting that. So that'll be a component. But also, how do we improve the educational experience for our children in a healthy way? How do we help them improve their health? Because we know that prevention is worth a pound of cure. An ounce of prevention prevents a pound of cure, or thickness around the middle, for my case. So we're very excited to bring the resources together in a coordinated fashion. And I love this part. I'm very passionate about it. And now that the pandemic seems to be waning, we're ready to hit the ground running.
We do have a question that's coming in for Cody about yoga. So before I ask you that, Cody, Dr. Gabus, have you had some interesting meetings, or have you been energized with some of the folks that you've met out in the community already?
Oh yes. I've been connected with lots of different people over the years. I met with Mayor Luke Feeney, who has very progressive ideas about early childhood education. I've met with other educators, Dr. Todd Burkett from the Pickaway Ross Educational Service Center. I've met with the Child Protection Center. I've met with many people who are all very excited about helping to improve the health of our community.
So really pulling in the resources of the community and our folks that are also working very hard at solving complex solutions.
Right. So you may hear the term social determinants of health. Adena can't make everything a medical problem, but we can certainly bring people together to a table to say, we together can make this issue less of an issue in our region, working together and stressing that partnership.
Well, we're excited for your new role, and we're great that you're in that. I have a little bit of a teaser for our audience, and I'll explain a little bit more about what your role will include here in just a minute. But before we do that, Dr. Gabus, there's a question coming in for you, Cody. Do you have any advice for someone who is new to yoga or nervous to get started?
Yeah, so this is funny, I just talked to someone about this. I had a friend who had really been wanting to come to one of my yoga classes. And I was friends with her, so I prepped her and told her, this is going to be okay. It's accessible to everyone. And she kept not coming to my classes. And then she ended up telling me, I was too afraid to come. I pulled in and I panicked and I left, and I was too afraid to come to class. And so, I made her aware too, and I actually just talked to someone else about this, but yoga can be done by anybody. and you just have to find a class that's going to be appropriate for you. So if you're wanting to go to a class, or you can do like, YouTube or something like that, but it's just, we just lay our mats out. You don't have to have any fancy clothes on or anything like that. It's just light movement, and most any class you go to is going to offer plenty of variations that you'll be able to do. We're not all going to be doing headstands or something like that. So.
Awesome. Thanks for that advice and answering that question.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that. I mentioned to you before that Dr. Gabus has a new role in working in pulling together resources of the community. As part of that role, he will also participate with Living Well with Adena. Living Well with Adena has been going on for over a year now, and we've been excited to share with you some programming. We're very pleased for those of you that joined us and listen in for the advice and also the exercises that we do here on the show. Some of the viewings, some of the shows have actually reached about 15 or 16,000 individuals, and so we're really pleased with that. It has been my honor to serve as the host during that time. With Dr. Gabus's role in working with the community, Dr. Gabus will now take this seat, and he will become the moderator for Living Well with Adena. So thank you so much for the support that you have given me and all of the guests that we've had over the last several months. And we're very excited to have Dr. Gabus join us now for Living Well Adena. So welcome aboard, Dr. Gabus, and we're glad to have you.
So glad to be here.
You bet. Well, we end up with a couple of reminders and thank yous. So we want to thank Dr. Weeks, who has joined us today, and for her valuable information. We also wanted to thank Cody as well for her instruction, and thank you for taking me through that 1 minute of mindfulness. Very helpful. And then also Dr. Gabus, thank you for joining us and also for this time to introduce you. We want to just remind you that you can be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and want to give you one last reminder about taking care of yourself. And one of the ways, as I mentioned before, is to get the COVID vaccine. So we want to remind you that the easiest way to do that is to call 740-542-SAFE, or you can go to www.adena.org/COVID vaccine. Again, thank you so much, and we look forward for you to join Dr. Gabus and his guests on another episode of Living Well with Adena on April 1st.